Hello viewers, today we're going to continue with the assembly of the M54, and as we remember previously we ended up with the timing of the whole engine. So the next thing which we're going to do in this series is to rebuild completely the Vanos. By completely I mean everything inside the Vanos plus the two actuators, the intake and the exhaust one. So I installed the Vanos, let me show you. I installed the Vanos just for showing purposes how to remove it, but pretty much it's pretty easy, nothing crazy. So let me show you how to remove it, and after that we're going to rebuild it. So we're going to start with the both covering bolts for the intake and the exhaust camshaft. Everything is undone, I know, but I'm just doing it for showing purposes. After that is the caps which are covering the bolts. So I'm just going to pull them up, the both ones, like that. And now we're going to see that we have two bolts which are holding the Vanos to the pistons which we installed in the previous episode. So the most important thing is to not mess it up when removing it, because this bolt is with the reverse thread, which means when I rotating it to the right, it is undoing itself. So let me remove it. And the other one, like that. And yeah, it's pretty obvious that you're going to need to remove all the nuts which is holding the Vanos. In total there are 6 nuts and 1 stud which is installed here. So I'm just going to pull it out, like that. And let's go to the work table. So here's the both Vanos system with the two actuators. This is the old hardware, the two caps, the reverse thread bolts, and the bolts which are covering them. So we're going to change everything. This is the brand new bolts, the covering ones with the sealing ring, aluminum sealing ring. Here are the two caps which I'm talking about, plus the both bolts with the reverse thread. These gaskets are for the piston housing. This is the most important thing when you want to rebuild your Vanos the cheap as possible. This is the only thing that you're going to need, these O-rings. And yeah, pretty conveniently BMW send us this small package for just one O-ring, which is for the actuators of the Vanos. So yeah, pretty conveniently of their side. And this is the pistons. We have two pistons with the springs for the actuators. So let me open up everything and show you what we have. So this is everything which we're going to use today. As I told you, this is the old hardware and this is the new stuff that we're going to use. So as I told you, if you are on a tight budget, the things that are highly recommended to be replaced is these O-rings here plus these two O-rings. So this is the main things you want to change when you are doing your Vanoses. But because we are doing the ultimate rebuild today, we're going to change everything. So as I told you, this is the O-rings for the pistons which are inside the housing, the intake and the exhaust. This is the two bolts with the reverse thread. This is the caps with the new O-rings, the gaskets for the housings. This is the sleeves plus the bearings for the rattling problem with the Vanoses. Single Vanoses has much more problems with this. Double Vanos systems has much less problems with the rattle. I don't remember if the owner had some problem with the rattling of the Vanos, but we're going to do it so to be sure that everything is going to be fine in a long run. This is the hardware, just bolts and shims for here, which probably I'm not going to use it because I don't like how these aftermarket bolts are looking like. I prefer to use the original ones. And this is the pistons with the springs and the O-rings for the two actuators. plus the bolts which are covering the plastic caps. So this is everything that you're going to, yeah, of course, and the gasket for the Vanos, pretty obvious. This is everything if you want to completely rebuild your Vanos system. Let's start disassembling little by little and start replacing parts. So not sure, but probably it's going to get messy, so that I'm going to use this rack to catch the oil. So let's start with undoing all of these bolts. We're going to start with the intake valves. This one is not big of a deal because there is no spring underneath the housing, but here we're going to need to use a little bit pressure with our hands. So yeah, it doesn't look very good, if I need to be honest. Kind of bad looking oil. And the piston, which is pretty seized inside. Okay, I'm probably going to need something to pull it up. Huh. Okay. Kind of sleepy. So this is the intake piston. So I'm going to need to clean it up a little bit before we continue. So I clean it as good as I can. I remove the old gasket from the housing, which is this how it looks like. Now we're going to continue with the disassembling of the intake piston. Let me undo this nut. I'm going to undo it with the impact. How much is this? Okay, from the first try. So 24. Yes. So let's give it a try. Not sure I'm going to be able to hold it by hand. Probably not. So let's give it a try. Let's see. Am I going to fail? Okay. It wasn't so hard. So let's start removing them one by one. We have firstly a shim, which is stuck from the oil, like that. So after that we're going to have the bearing. Let me try to take it out. After that is the bearing. After that is another shim which is separating the both bearings. After that is the other bearing. And now we're going to need to remove the sleeve. We're going to need to remove the sleeve, so to be able to remove, actually I'm not going to be, it's not needed to remove the bottom shim. It's not needed to be removed, but I'm going to remove it so to be able to clean it up, but we are not going to replace it. This is the sleeve, the rattle sleeve, and in the end we should have one more shim. So let me try to remove it like that. Okay. So this is everything which is in this piston. Now pretty obviously I'm just going to clean it up. So for assembling it back together, I'm going to start with the bigger shim, which I'm going to clean up. Like so. And I'm just going to put a little bit of silicone grease, my favorite silicone grease. So to have a good grease surface. So we're going to start with this shim. After that is the new sleeve, which we're going to replace. Once again, little bit of grease, silicone grease. Like, okay, it needs a little bit more. Okay, it's sticking a little bit on the threads, but it's nice and flush. Now we're going to continue with the new bearings. So this is the old sleeve, I'm just going to put it aside. and the old bearings. So now we're going to start the new bearing. Once again, I'm just going to put some silicone grease on it, like that. I'm just going to drop it in. After that, I'm going to clean up the shim which is separating the both bearings, like so. A bit of silicone grease once again, and the other bearing. So like that. And the top shim, which is the last thing we're going to replace in this piston internally, because we still didn't replace the O-rings, of course. Actually, it was on the opposite side. Yeah. So the shim like that. And of course, in the end, I'm going to install the nut, which no one knows the torque spec of this nut. So probably going to just torque it with the impact gun, as the same way as we remove it. Okay, like that. So let's give it a try. This should be enough. Okay, so after assembling the piston internally, we're going to continue with the O-rings, which I told you is the most important thing of this rebuild. So let me remove it. So like that. And now the other rings. Yeah, this one is giving me some hard times, but finally it's out. Okay, as far as from inside. Let's try the other one. Okay, the struggle was real, I cannot lie. So all the four rings removed on this piston. Now let's reinstall the new ones. So for assembling the O-rings, we're going to start with the normal rubber. I think those are rubber O-rings which are going on the inside of the piston. So I'm just going to grab it. And it's really important to be sure that you're not going to twist it when you are installing it. Let's install a bigger one. I'm just going to pull it like that. And it looks good. As you can see right now, I'm soaking the Teflon rings in a hot water because here is a little bit cold. And yeah, I want to be sure that they will be able to stretch out as much as they can, because they are really stiff and it's going to be a little bit hard to install them. So let's try to install them. Yeah, it's not going to be so easy. Okay, the first one is installed. Let's try the bigger one. Okay, feels good. Like that. The four O-rings are installed. And of course the next step is going to be to put some lubricant in the Vanos housing. So to set up the Teflon rings, so once again I'm going to put a little bit of silicone grease. Like that. A little bit here. And I'm going to leave it for a moment. I'm just going to install in the top cover. Like that. So now I'm going to wait a little bit, and after that I'm going to remove it and check is everything okay. Okay, after 2 minutes, let's remove it. Okay, it pops up pretty easy, but yeah, I think it feels good. So let's put once again some silicone grease, so to be sure that everything is going to be fitted nicely without any rubbing and anything like that. Like so. So let's clean up a little bit the surface where the gasket is going to sit. Not a big deal, because if we have a leak internally, it's not a big deal, right? So let's clean it a little bit. And now let's see which gasket was ours. I believe it was this one. Yes. Can I put it the other way? No, it only goes one way. I'm just going to take the cover. I'm going to install the new gasket like that. Actually, the gasket is covering this hole here, but I checked the original one is covering it too. So I guess it should be like that. So after that we're going to install the piston with some angle. And after that we're going to place it in the cylinder. So everything fits fine. Now the 5 bolts. So let's torque the bolts. We're going to torque it to 10 Newton meters in cross pattern, which actually, guys, I am 100% sure that it's not big of a deal here, but let's do it right. Okay, like that. And pretty much we are done with the intake side. Now we're going to continue with the exhaust side. So for the exhaust side, we're going to need to apply a little bit of pressure on the housing cap, because we have a spring inside. So I'm just going to hold it. Like so. Oops. So yeah, as on the other side it doesn't look very good. And oops, one of the bolts fall down here. As you can see, the piston once again with some gooey thing. It doesn't look very nice, but yeah, doesn't matter. And the old gasket, let me try to remove it like that. And the conical spring, the bigger part of it, it goes down. So yeah, once again I'm going to need to clean up everything, and we're going to continue from there. So once again everything is cleaned. So let's remove the valves and start working with the exhaust piston. So let's see, are we going to be able to undo it? Okay, let's have it. Okay. Once again the shim is stuck here, and yeah, the other ones fall down, which doesn't matter. It goes like that. The other one, the sleeve, which every time stuck in the threads. And it likes to give me some hard time. Come on, you son of a... Okay. And the last one, once again, I'm going to need a screwdriver. Like that. Now, let me clean it up a little bit once again. Pretty much the same procedure as the other one. They are the same, no difference. Once again, we're going to change the both bearings. So yeah. Now let's clean up the first big shim. I don't know, is it shim the right name for this? I don't know how to call it. So a little bit of silicone grease, the shim. After that we're going to change the sleeve with a new one. Okay, it fits nicely. The two bearings are going to be changed. Like that. The thicker shim, as you can see, it's much thicker than the other ones. The new bearing. After that, the last big shim. It should go like that. And lastly, the nut which is holding everything. And once again, we're going to tighten it up with the impact gun. Yeah, you can tighten it as with a ratchet or something else, but it's kind of hard to hold the piston without scratching it. So I prefer to do it that way. This should be plenty enough. So after changing the bearings and the rattle sleeve, we're going to continue with the other struggle, changing the O-rings. Actually, the Teflon ring is much more easier to be cutted than the O-ring which is underneath. I'm not going to lie about that. It's really giving me some hard time. This haven't been serviced from the day that the car came out from the manufacturer. Okay, the outer one is removed, which should be the easier one actually, because the inner O-rings are in terrible shape. They are like pure plastic, and it's really hard to cut them out. I have changed a lot of O-rings like this, but they don't have so stiff O-rings till now. Okay, finally, that's true. Let's continue with the bottom ones, which is not going to be a lot easier than the other ones. Okay, this one's kind of easy. And the bottom one. Okay. Okay. Finally. They are like pure plastic. So let me clean it up a little bit. and start installing them. Okay, once again we're going to start with the rubber O-rings. I'm going to try not to twist it like that. After that, the upper one. Once again, everything seems fine. So once again, I'm going to soak them up in our hot water for easier installation, because in a cold weather it's almost impossible to install them. So I'm going to start with the bigger one. Okay. Yeah, now let's try the smaller one. Okay. So I think everything is fine. Now once again I'm going to put some, let me dry this up a little bit. So let me put it once again. Let's install it here. Okay, I'm going to do it like that for a minute or two, and after that going to set up the lower one. So after sitting around 2 minutes, let's remove it. I think it fits nicely. Yeah, everything seems fine. So we're going to redo the same thing which we done on the other side. Let me put a little bit more. I'm going to clean up the surface here. And here. Let's install the gasket. Okay, it should go like that. After that, like this. And okay, just I was going to forget the spring. And let's be ready with the bolts. Now it's going to be a little bit more tricky because of the spring. Okay, as I told you, the cone goes down, so like that, I believe. Yeah, like that. Okay. So yeah, the pressure is not so small, so hopefully you're going to see what I'm doing. But I'm going to rotate it like that and push it. Hopefully you guys are seeing what I'm doing, but it's kind of hard. Okay, I took my glove. So let me check, is everything aligning? Yeah, everything seems fine. So let's install the last bolt. Let's tighten up everything. On this exhaust side, I prefer to do it by hand, because I want to feel if something feels wrong, to stop there. Okay. So once again, 10 Newton meters. Okay. So pretty much the intake and the exhaust pistons and Vanos are serviced. The only thing that's left is the two solenoids, the two actuators which are controlling them. So let me figure out how to not scratch the paint, because the owner painted everything, and it's going to be a little bit hard for me. So let me figure it out. So I used this tape to try to cover the paint. Not sure if it's going to work. Hopefully it is, but most of the time these actuators are pretty tight and it's not the easiest job in the world to undo them, especially when it's not installed in the engine. Let me take a hammer. I'm not recommending doing this, guys, but in desperate times, desperate methods. Okay, like that. I think the paint is going to survive. So I don't even know how to remove the tape now. So let me just undo the actuator and remove it. Why is everything filled with this stretch substance? Probably because the owner was cleaning it and everything came inside. So this is the O-ring which we're going to change, and inside here should be the piston with the spring. Here it is. Let's see the new one. The spring looks pretty much the same length. So yeah, I'm just going to clean it up internally with some brake cleaner. And let me remove this O-ring. So the new O-ring. I think I twisted it a little bit. So like that, so to be sure that it's not twisted. It feels right. Okay, so I brake clean it. And now once again the good old silicone grease, which is coming to its end of the life. Let me see, am I missing something? But no, it's exactly the same. So the spring goes down like that, and as we saw, I changed the O-ring. Let's put a little bit of silicone grease on it, so to be sure that it's going to lay down nicely. I'm going to tighten this up when I install it in the engine, because now I don't have enough lever and I'm not going to be able to hold it still, and I don't want to risk damaging anything. So once again, actually, am I going to be able to install it like that? Yeah, I think it's going to work out with the help of my little friend. Okay, I think it snapped, but yeah, sometimes it's risky. So once again, we're going to replace this piston. Here it is, the new one. They are both the same on the both sides, the intake and the exhaust. There is no difference. This is the new O-ring. So I'm going to once again clean it up. So let's install the new O-ring. I always like to check the O-rings for twisting, like so. So once again, a little bit of silicone grease. After that, the piston with the spring, like so. Now the actuator, once again, a little bit of silicone grease on the ring, like so. And I'm going to finger tight it. As I told you, I'm going to fully tighten them up when I install the Vanos in the engine, because right now, as we saw, it's kind of hard. So the only thing that is left is these two caps, which are going to cover the reverse thread bolts, on which I need to install the O-rings, like that. Once again, I'm going to apply some silicone grease on them to be ready for installation. Okay, like that. I'm going to leave it like that. And pretty much we are ready to go to the engine and tighten up everything. It's pretty obvious that we need to degrease everywhere, and after that I'm going to guide the new gasket for the Vanos unit, like so. So now we're going to install the Vanos unit. I'm just going to put some assembly loop over the pistons. Oops. I'm going to clean it up. Like that for easier installation. The Vanos itself goes directly in. Like that. So now I'm going to install the nuts. The nuts are torqued to 10 Newton meters, and the stud, I don't know the torque spec for the stud, but probably is 22. So you would want to first install the nuts in place and torque them, and after that install the reverse thread bolt for the Vanos, because in some strange scenario it's possible if you don't torque the Vanos plate in place, the bolts to pull up the pistons out of place. So I prefer to tighten up all the hardware for the Vanos unit, and after that start installing the bolts with the reverse thread, which are holding the pistons in the Vanos unit. So as I told you, the nuts are 10 Newton meters, and this I'm going to torque it to 22, like that. So now I'm going to install the reverse thread bolts, which are holding the Vanos unit to the pistons. Oops. Yeah, I'm saying the reverse thread, and I'm tightening it like it is normal one. So these bolts should be torqued to 8 Newton meters, and it's really important to check your torque range. Is it working on the opposite side? Because some of them are not working, and you need to make sure that your one is working in the opposite side, because you can over torque it really easy and break that bolt, and after that you're going to have some hard time removing it. As I told you, 8 Newton meters is almost none. So after torquing the both bolts, we're going to continue with the caps. Yeah, I'm going to reuse the old caps, the original one, because I'm not able to install the new ones. They are a little bit bigger diameter than needed, and it's impossible to install them, and I don't want to force them in because they can break up. So I prefer to use the original ones. I just changed the O-rings and put a little bit silicone grease on it for easy installation. So like that. Like that. So the only thing that's left is to install both caps, which are brand new from the kit, and it has this sealing aluminum ring on it, so to prevent oil leaks. And the torque spec for these two bolts, or caps, I don't know how to call them, is 50 Newton meters. Pretty much this is it.